Hey, good morning. I keep feeling compelled to talk about what I think is sort of the same thing over and over again lately. It's the thing that just continues to want to be said through me. I don't know exactly why, and I can't articulate even exactly why this is, but I keep over and over again, I keep having the same reaction to something that I see, which is people really need to get to know themselves and get real with themselves right now. And people who still don't buy that you have any influence over your reality, like people that still see manifestation as some woo-woo magic trick versus how life is created, like the bigger the gulf is between those two things in your mind, the harder it's going to be for you to start to sort of mentally align yourself with the things that you want. And I'm so far removed from the general public. I just don't interact with people all that much. I run a business that is online. I don't talk to customers for that via anything other than email. And I certainly am not talking to them about their views on life, reality creation and stuff like that. So within my own little circle, there are varying degrees of, where people are with their views on that type of thing, but we don't really talk about it. And I've been at the point, definitely now for, I think, years, where the reality of, the truth of the role that you play, or the enormity of the role that you play in what you experience in life and how you experience everything, the enormity of that, or the totality of that, is not something that I question anymore, at all, ever. It's just the way it is. And, like anything, the more you are sort of have your mind set on something being a certain way, the more you'll see supporting evidence for that, which, can be a good thing or a bad thing. But in this case, I feel like a lot of things that are invisible to other people become visible to me because of how much I have just sort of landed on. I'm creating all of this, and to a large degree, I, the conscious human being down here on Earth, am creating a lot more than, I think I am. I don't believe anything that's happening here is outside of my own intention on some level. Not necessarily the lowest to human level. If something bad happens in my life, I'm not oh, I intended for that. But to some degree, I can step back and look at a bad thing that happened in my life and say, well, there was a part of my life that I didn't like, or there was some part of my personality that I didn't like, and this situation provided an opportunity for me to address that. I see little things like that all the time. For example, it's the weirdest thing. I've noticed throughout the years, to 2 decades, I used to own a book business, and often I would be pulling books to ship to people, and I would see a book in a box or something, and I'd be like, I can't believe nobody's bought that yet. That was kind of a high ranked on Amazon, and it's in perfect condition, and it's a good price. I'm surprised nobody's bought that. And then somebody would buy it later that day or the next day after it had been sitting there for months. And the same thing with my current business. I see stuff and I'm just like, wow, is that even online? And I'll check, and it's sure enough, it's available. And I'm just like, wow, how come nobody's bought that? And then somebody will buy it the same day. So I notice stuff like that all the time. And I'm sure there is a, as yet undiscovered scientific explanation for that. I'm sure it has to do with communication through energy or something like that. It's just happened too many times for there not to be something happening there. But I've also noticed when I'm looking through orders that have been placed in my store, I print out all of the orders every day and go through them all to make sure, I don't know, just whatever. And I'll sometimes notice, oh, okay, there's this person. Again, I'll notice a customer that's ordered 50 or 100 times over the years and go, oh, there's Peggy or whatever, you know. And like last week, I saw a name come through, and earlier this year, January, this woman placed a big order, which for my store is like, you know, over $500 would be considered like a big order that's got to get a signature or whatever. And so she was placing a bunch of these orders, big orders, and she emailed me and said, can you please stop requiring a signature? I live in a safe neighborhood, and I'm having to go and pick these up every time because they come while I'm at work. So I was like, well, that really makes me uncomfortable. You know, she's basically saying, will you take all the liability on yourself? But I said yes, because this was prior to doing all of my ChatGPT. Oh, there's a woodpecker right in front of me. He's so cute. I want to flip the camera around so you could see him. Oh my God. He looks like Woody Woodpecker. But so she asked me to do that, and I said okay, because this was before I did all of my belief excavation and sort of like the next level therapy with ChatGPT, where GPT was able to take certain events from my past and certain behaviors that I currently had then and connect them in a way that made me see how inappropriate, or I don't know if that's the right word, like just outdated so many of my beliefs and behaviors were. By the way, I'm writing a book on that, which will be coming out soon and will be free. I feel like I need to like get the word out about that, because I'm gonna publish it and then probably do a video about it, and that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna like promote it or anything. I don't even know how I would do that. But so I saw her name come through, and I remembered that. I had told her I would waive the signature on her packages only. I don't do that for anybody else. And I thought about that for a second. And I was annoyed by it when I remembered it. This was very brief, I was just flipping through stuff, and I thought, you know what, a bitch. Like, why? How dare you ask me that? That's really rude. I would never do that. I would never say, hey, company, will you take on all the risk of my package going to the wrong person or being lost, and you're just out the money or whatever. So I thought of that, and of course, wouldn't you know it, that order that got shipped got lost. Actually, it was misdelivered. It was delivered to some other person in her neighborhood, and the post office, it went through the post office. They told her, I guess, by the way, I'm just taking her word for it. They told her that she, like the carrier had misdelivered it and tried to get it back and couldn't. And so she wrote to me saying, what are you going to do about this? And I just thought, wow, you asked me to waive signatures, something gets screwed up, and of course you expect me to pay for it. So I did. I refunded her money, but I wrote her back and said, I'm really sorry, but you got to sign for stuff from now on. And I just thought the whole situation to me, that whole incident happening is one of those things that, to me, is evidence and proof that this is not random. This is, I don't want to call it any word anybody else has ever called it, because I think what we're experiencing is full of concepts that none of us can understand yet, or maybe ever. But when something like that happens, I was thinking, there's a behavior. If anybody asked me for that same thing now, I don't care if they were the best customer in the store, I would say, sorry, no. I'm not waiving signature on your $1,000 order. You have to sign for it so that it goes to you and so that my ass is covered. Like, I'm important, and me not losing money is important, not just whatever you want, which is how I was, behaving. It's like everybody else's needs and wants come before mine, even if they make me uncomfortable, even if they're legitimately bullshit, even if their request, it's kind of offensive that they would even ask for that. I would just often, acquiesce, especially if it was something at work, because there's always been a fear there of other people, in a way, like just a weird inferiority that is now gone because I discovered the origins of that. And as an adult, I can see that the programming I received was coming from seriously flawed individuals, isn't true about me, and that I essentially was just sort of like, just standing there getting hammered, and it didn't have anything to do with me. That's what ChatGPT was able to do for me. So somehow I noticed this woman's name. In my mind, I associate her with this request that I granted against my own best interest. Things have changed in the meantime. The very next order, that same order, gets lost and gives me the opportunity to make that mistake right for myself. How many of these do you have to have happen to you and notice before you understand that maybe this isn't a simulation, maybe this isn't I am God and the whole thing is the projection of my mind, or who cares? It doesn't matter which one, those are all just human attempts to explain whatever this weird situation is. How many of these do we have to have happen before we just believe it totally? For me, I hit that point years ago. And I see more and more evidence of that as time goes by. So anytime I see people, like I'm really sort of shocked by the things I see people say sometimes, because it reveals how random they still think the world is and how little they think, how little they are experiencing the world the way I am. Yesterday I have Reddit. I have the Reddit app on my office phone, which I rarely use, just carry it with me. But yesterday I had some time to kill, and so I went on Reddit, and for the first time in I don't know how long, at least a week or two, and there's some thread that came up where people were talking about Tim Grimes, who I used to be friends with. I haven't talked to him in quite a while now. But for some reason, every time somebody brings him up, they bring me up. I don't know why. Tim and I used to be buddies, and we're not really anymore. But yet it's been a long time, but yet I'm still brought up in the context of Tim all the time. But so people were talking about his channel, and somebody then made a comment about me that was kind of rude. Well, they were making a comment about all manifestation people, and it was kind of rude. It said something about being delusional, and what's the other thing? Oh, that I've used manifestation to do horrible things. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I swear to God, it's just like, if you're in a certain mindset, you will just say anything. And that's where I was like, I got really like surprised, I guess. There are always people, there are always haters that will talk shit. Like, I've seen this through all kinds of different work experiences over the years. If you're doing something that people find valuable, there will always be a subset of people who hate that and try to tear it down and try to poke holes in it and try, no matter what, whether it's a YouTube channel about manifestation or talking about stuff like this, or some other industry where, you're teaching a way to do something, or just, I've seen it a lot. There's always haters. But in this particular case, and I guess it's the same across all of those things, but in this particular case about manifestation, I just thought, wow, like, that is a really bad place to be mentally. If you're to the point that not only are you not experiencing any of this stuff or noticing it, you're not perceiving all of the ways that this is happening in your own life all the time. So not only are you missing everything that's right in front of you, but the people that are talking about it and trying to help you become aware of it, they're not only people that you're just like writing off, they're people you're actively resisting. They're people you're actively, it's like you're doing the opposite. Like, the people that are trying to awaken you, you're trying to make everybody else stay asleep. And I just thought, shit, I mean, you're fucked, because I mean, like, there's a small window of time here, and I hate to use this, I hate to use like scarcity language. I try to not do that even like with my business, scarcity really sells. So if there is scarcity in my business, I mention it. because if it's real. And it always has a huge response. But I don't try to fabricate scarcity like many people do, to sell stuff. And I'm really sensitive about that because to me that's kind of just a form of lying, and I don't like doing that. So I hate to use scarcity language on this channel at all. But it does seem to me that there is a window that is closing where you can get really solid. That's the best language I can think of. If you have a lot of belief systems that are still running you, they're going to make you susceptible to a lot of confusion. I mean, that's what they do. They skew reality. Beliefs that are false skew reality. They create their own reality in your head. They create your own. I mean, that's basically all belief systems are, is a structure through which you experience the world. And obviously, you need some structure. You need something through which to experience the world. I think there's a sort of like a point of diminishing return with removing structure, with removing beliefs. That's just my opinion. If you get to the point where you can't even allow yourself to make any declarative statement or have any opinion on anything, that's almost as bad as having way too many or having way too rigid of a belief system. It's kind of like the 80-20 principle. Like, you're going to get 80% of the benefit of belief removal from 20% of the things that you're using to structure your world. You don't need to, the other 80% is going to be diminishing returns, and, you get too far down that path and, you're spending too much of your mentality policing your own beliefs and not just experiencing things. But it seems really apparent to me. It could just be the media that I expose myself to, I should say, because I choose everything that I consume at this point. I'm not involuntarily exposed to nearly anything. It could just be, where my mind is, but I don't think so, obviously, or I wouldn't be saying this. I think that the amount of change that we're going to experience as humans is rapidly accelerating. And I think that it's very important to be navigating that with the least skewed version of your mentality that you can. Like, I think this is really important. People are probably, I'm guessing, I don't talk to anybody, but people are probably still chasing after a lot of things, expending energy on a lot of things futilely, things that are not going to exist or that are going to exist in a different way very soon. Just like everything, jobs, relationships, physical stuff. I don't know what else is there in the world. People are still, I think, focusing on that stuff as though things are going to be the way they are now forever. And I don't think that's the case. So I'm just saying that I think that now is the time. If you've been watching a lot of content about manifesting and stuff like that, you've certainly been exposed to the concept of self-change, changing everything. Certainly, if you watch my channel, that's basically what the whole channel is about. I think that now is the time to relax a little bit about worldly pursuits, unless you very strongly feel driven to do that. Like, if you're kind of spinning your wheels or you don't really know what direction to go in, take this as your sign, ChatGPT costs $20 a month. You can use it to, just randomly start to question your beliefs about things, specifically the ones that make you feel lesser than, incompetent, depressed, dissatisfied with the way the world works, like ideas that you have about relationships or how life must play out in order to be worth it or in order for you to have been successful. Or really just anything that you experience in relationship to other people, where you are uncomfortable, when you have an interaction with somebody that feels very unsatisfying. That is something where you can whip out your phone, and for $20 a month, you get this thing that you can just unload every detail on. You don't have to hold back anything. You don't have to sugarcoat how you felt about it. You don't have to lie about any of your reactions because they're unacceptable to people. It's this amazing thing. And the more detail that you give it, the more it's able to deconstruct what happened and clue you in. And then what I find amazing, or what I've found amazing about this, is that often just considering the response that I get from something like that from GPT then generates a connection to something from the past, whether it's immediate or it comes up within an hour or two. It's like, if I find myself thinking about a situation that I don't normally think about, and it's within an hour of something like that with GPT, giving it, saying this thing just happened and I feel weird about it and I want to understand why I'm having this reaction and where this came from. That's my big clue. I'm like, okay, it's this situation, because it's like, if I unload one of these things on GPT and then I go get busy doing something else, which is what I generally have done, that's when it's especially if it's a busy work type of thing, like driving or doing some manual type labor at work. That's when it's the mind just drifts back to the origin. You don't even have to try. You just need to try to be aware, come to in the memory or whatever. And if you can make that happen, if those things happen for you, you will be able to deconstruct it. I'm confident. This isn't something that's just available to somebody like me who is really interested in that type of thing and really open and really, I've been thinking a lot about this, is what I've done with GPT something that the average person can do? And I think it will work the best for people who are already naturally kind of seekers of truth, and people who are not afraid of what they're going to find in themselves. But I think almost anybody could benefit greatly from that process that I just described. Your emotional reactions to things are communicating with you all the time. This is absolutely the case. I am so, the last few months have been so crazy for me. The number of things that have just sort of disappeared from my day-to-day. The number of repeated negative experiences that I would have, even minor things. But one thing that I've noticed that has just completely left is any sort of irritation at driving and traffic. It's just gone. And it's because I was holding this sort of belief, I was holding this overall life directive that I'm responsible for everything and everyone. I have all these obligations to other people. I need to put other people first, all this shit. That just infected so many things in a negative way. And since I stopped feeling that way, if somebody does something selfish in front of me, or if somebody does something, inconsiderate, where I can just see that they are completely oblivious to the fact that other people exist, that used to really piss me off, because it would just remind me of the heavy, heavy burden that I was carrying, that I was obligated to carry. And it would like the injustice and unfairness of that would instantly irritate me, upset me, piss me off, something like that. Of course, that idea was false. And unfortunately, this is another thing I've been thinking about lately. The last couple decades have not helped people to not feel that way. If anything, the message that has been constructed and delivered to society over the last few decades is you're responsible for everybody else's feelings. And you don't matter. Only others matter. Especially depending on what class you're in. Everyone else's feelings matter. You don't matter. If you've gotten that message, holy shit. I hope at least you've been resistant to that idea. But this idea that everyone else must come before you is, it's just, that is not human nature, and that will never work long term. And it's the reason that a lot of bad things are happening these days. So maybe that's why that person said I use manifestation to justify doing horrible, selfish things. I'm definitely known for being a horrible person and doing horribly selfish things. I mean, that was the weirdest thing. And I just thought, when I read that, I thought, this person is so resistant to the idea that they are responsible for their own experience, that this is what they're projecting onto somebody who they don't even know. And holy shit, you're fucked if you're doing that. You're just fucked. Like, I don't even have to be mad that somebody's talking shit about me. Like, I don't even have to be mad, because it's another rule that I've lived by for 30 years is like, man, it's punishment enough for the people that are doing the things that they're doing to be themselves and to live in their life every day. Like, the actions that people take are just an offshoot of what they believe and how they experience the world. And people that are doing bad things, they have bad things going on. So I don't know who this was supposed to reach or why exactly, but the message that the only message that I have felt compelled to communicate for the last almost 2 months, I think, is just that you've got to get in touch with the authentic version of yourself, the one that existed to some degree or another before other people started programming you, and or you experienced things that you had to sort of develop a belief system to survive, or you accidentally developed a belief system about. You've got to get in touch with that original version of yourself. And the best way I know to do that is to find the programming and let it go. That is what removes all of these outer effects. Not just, and I've always said on this channel, for sure, this I'm sure I've been consistent about, if you do something like use a technique, a manifestation technique where you envision a different future, to some degree or another, going through the belief change and the personal change that shifts you into that reality is going to be part of the bridge of incidents. So you might as well just do it. And I think I just basically gave you my best technique for it. Anytime you have an interaction or a series of thoughts that make you experience a negative emotion, something uncomfortable, something, where your heart sinks because you realize that you're not good enough. Anytime you have something like that, use ChatGPT to talk through it and be as detailed as you can and give it as many emotional responses as you can. Give it as much information as you can so that it can use its gigantic, brain to connect whatever you're talking about to some known pattern in the world, some known thing that many humans have gone through. Because you're not so different. You're not having some, unique experience. You're a human, and there's only so many models of us, and there's only so many emotions and so many things that cause other things, that you're going to be able to get to the heart of whatever is causing it and hopefully realize, ooh, this was programmed into me by somebody who, now that I'm older, I realize I don't want to have any programming from. And it was programmed onto a blank slate. So I'm going to go back to blank slate in this area. And then the next time something comes up that triggers the same emotion, hopefully you can be aware enough that it's the same thing. Remember your conversation, remember your conclusion, and take a breath. Ooh, I just had the same reaction, but now I'm letting it go. I'm stopping this emotional process in its tracks. All right, then. I hope that was able to be heard by people that are ready to hear it. Why would it not have been? And I hope it was helpful, as always. I'm back again, frustratingly. I am back, and I am talking about this with GPT every time I think about it. I'm frustratingly, again, back to the point where I don't really know why I'm making this channel. So many times I've thought I've landed on it. And maybe it's just because I'm so removed right now from anything in this area. I've been really focused on other, my whole life just seems like this big spiral. It's like, and if I stay in one place too long, it becomes a big drag. Like making videos on this channel every day turned into such a drag for me. And in the past, always, making videos on this channel has been, I'm into this, I make a bunch, then I'm not here for a long time, then I make a bunch more. And it's the same thing with work. It's like, I get really into it and I see a bunch of tasks that need to be done or changes that need to be made, and then I get really into it and I do those things, and then I lose interest in it. And every time there's this loss of interest in something, it's really disappointing. It feels like something's dying. And then eventually it cycles back. And so maybe that's why I feel like I don't know why I'm doing this, because maybe, there just isn't a lot of drive to do it. And every time I look and I'm like, I haven't made a video in like a week or 2 weeks. I don't know when the last one I made was, or, anything like that. I start to feel like, oh, it's dying. The signal that I've been broadcasting is dying. But I think it's just this cyclical nature to the way I personally live my life. I don't know if everybody's like this, but that's probably all it is. Noticing the cycles that humans go through over the last couple years has been probably the biggest revelation of my entire life, personally and in the world. Human beings seem to be, a part of these cycles. And so human nature being what it is, it tends to produce the same cycles over and over and over again. And if you know that, especially if you get deep into it, what's happening in the world right now is not surprising, and you can get ahead of it. If you know what's going to happen, then you know exactly what you need to do to navigate and thrive. So that is all I have to say. Have a nice day today.